Welcome everyone, this is Andres Restart. So for this video I want to talk about this theory I have. This theory I've talked about with Brandon from What About Nintendo in the podcast. This eventuality theory for The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Now I kind of did touch on this a few months ago with my final timeline assessment for Breath of the Wild. But this idea sort of came to the forefront in my mind once we got that update on Nintendo's official website for Legend of Zelda where they placed Breath of the Wild at the end of every timeline. So, in my final timeline assessment, I sort of touched on these destinies, these eventualities that happen no matter what. For example, the Koroks, right, and the Lynels. Now, we see both the Lynels and the Koroks in Breath of the Wild, right? But the thing is, before Breath of the Wild, the Lynels were only a part of the Downfall timeline, the timeline where Link fell in battle at the end of Ocarina of Time, and the Koroks were only a part of the Adult timeline where there was no Link and the gods flooded Hyrule and eventually the Kokiri adapted into Koroks. However, we see both in Breath of the Wild, so that seems contradictory. But it's not contradictory when you sort of think of things in the way of the eventuality theory, where there are certain eventualities no matter what. So, for example, let's say if you go far enough down the timeline for Legend of Zelda, you're going to see Lynels. They just become a part of the world, they're a part of the environment. They evolve or adapt from whatever they were beforehand, right? And if you think about it, most of the games in the Downfall timeline are very far down the timeline. They're very late into the history of Hyrule when you compare it to the other games. So it kind of makes sense in that way, and if the Kokiri are destined to become Koroks no matter what, Breath of the Wild also makes sense by having both Lynels and Koroks if it's far enough in the down in the timeline, and it is. It's at the very end no matter what timeline. But that's where things kind of get even more interesting. It's at the end of the timeline no matter which timeline you're in. So to me, that sort of suggests to me the idea I have is that no matter what happens, the events of Breath of the Wild are going to take place no matter which timeline you're in. And it sort of plays into some comments that came from Fujibayashi, the director for Breath of the Wild. So Famitsu interviewed, both a series producer AJ Numa and Fujibayashi about Breath of the Wild's timeline placement after this information all came out. And basically all Fujibayashi said in terms of where Breath of the Wild takes place in the timeline, he said that's up to the player's imagination, isn't it? So if you think about that, it kind of goes hand in hand with what they've been saying for months of how, or actually at this point almost over a year, how they designed Breath of the Wild to be a game that different kinds of players can play and have different kinds of experiences. And if you play Breath of the Wild, that's going to happen. Let's say I play the game, and the way I play the game, I see a lot of Koroks, I see rock salt, I see ruins, I see Rito, and to me that all suggests that, hey, this game takes place way after the events of the Wind Waker, right? But let's say you played the game, and you saw things in a slightly different way. You saw ruins, you saw Lynels, you saw, a lot of nods towards A Link to the Past and things like that. So you were sort of more thinking, oh, this game takes place way down the timeline in the Downfall timeline, way after the events of Link falling in battle to Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time. So our actual experiences of the game sort of lend us towards different kinds of thinking. It's up to our own imaginations, our own headcanons of where we should place Breath of the Wild in a timeline. And that isn't contradictory if you assume that the events of Breath of the Wild take place at the end of each timeline no matter what. The events are going to happen regardless of which timeline you're in. And that's why I'm coming up with this eventuality theory where there are just certain things that are going to take place no matter what. Kokiri will develop into Koroks, Lynels will eventually come out. The Calamity Ganon is a cataclysm, an event that is going to happen no matter what. And when you play Breath of the Wild, there are cutscenes that talk about how Calamity Ganon is this build-up over many, many years and generations where Ganondorf attacked and attacked and attacked, and eventually he no longer took on a solid human form, but rather just his pure essence, his pure hatred, his pure power became a force of nature, Calamity Ganon. He is an eventuality, he is a destiny. And if you think about just the Legend of Zelda series as a whole, in terms of Destiny plays a big role in Legend of Zelda. Link himself, he is destined to be reincarnated time and time again to be the hero of Hyrule. Ganondorf, or Demise, the hatred of Demise, is destined to be reincarnated time and time again. And the same thing for Zelda. She is destined to be reincarnated as the spirit of the goddess time and time again over the course of the generations. So then, if you think about that, Breath of the Wild being an eventuality no matter what, it being destined, the events of Breath of the Wild being destiny, falls perfectly in line with everything that Legend of Zelda is. It's about destiny, about cycles, about generations. It kind of makes a lot of sense, and to me, I can be kind of at peace with this, I think. That makes the most sense to me because Breath of the Wild can be played in different ways. You can have different experiences. You can see many different things that kind of have nods towards all the different timelines. And if you think, for example, that the events of Calamity Ganon, the events of Hyrule falling, the events of Link falling in battle and then coming back after 100 years to save Hyrule, the events of Link and Zelda eventually going on to restore Hyrule. All of those things could be certain bullet points that are going to happen no matter which timeline you're in. Which kind of just goes hand in hand with my idea that this is an eventuality no matter what. But those are my thoughts on the matter, guys. What do you guys think? Do you guys think that this is the case? Do you guys think it's a little different? Do you have any ideas on it? I want to know, so let me know below. But anyways, everyone, thank you so much for listening and watching. This video is kind of more of a quicker video. I didn't edit as much. And, I kind of want to try to bring out more content for you guys. So I may make more videos like this where it's a bit more of a discussion so I can talk about different news and information that come out for, about Nintendo and such on a more regular basis. I'm still going to have my edited videos with Charmander, different skits, and different things like that. But those obviously take a lot more work. So, it's hard to bring out as much videos. But by doing this, hopefully I can come out with several videos a week. I can offer more content, more entertainment for you guys. So let me know what you guys think. If you're okay with this kind of content, I'm really curious. Anyways, again, thank you so much for listening and watching. And if you're new here, make sure to subscribe, like the video, and you also can follow me on different social media platforms like Twitter, Instagram, Discord as well. We have a Discord server. So check that all out, guys. And yeah, thank you so much. I'll see you all really soon. Bye.